go live here. Hello everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5, all things healthy. I have a system set up here so that I can actually maybe not come up with the pausing so much. So we're going to see how it works. In using YouTube, they don't allow you to download, although there's much in the way of software to download it. So if you're coming on board here, I am sure this is kind of live, but let's get going because there's actually a lot of things I want to cover. It would have been great to actually come on board probably Thursday or Friday and talk to a few things. But if you are new to Live at 5, we have 3 components, and welcome. It's 3 components of something completely new, something different, and then there is what's in the news, what's there to talk about, what's there to unpack. And that could be a combination of books, could be articles, videos, other people saying what they're saying, and some true stories and some experiences that way. So the third part is the jokes and puns and things like that. But let's just, I'm going to probably look at the dashboard a little bit here. I'm not quite sure. Again, I have a different setup here that I'm looking at. So let's carry on. Let's look at what is the something new. The something new that kind of came to me is actually that there is a lot that we think is new, but it's been around for a very long time. When I brought in the mushrooms, or I bring in certain foods, a number of things, or say the toothbrush from a Walk Club member that was from Ethiopia, like all of these things are not necessarily new. They're new to us who are learning about them for the first time, and but they've been around for a long time. And then one thing that kind of happened today, a true story, I was walking through the ravine. I was actually doing a photo shoot, taking pictures of the product, the Mammalian omega-3s, because it's, I got some photos I'm going to put up here. They're the fall meeting winter for the first time, and in Toronto we've probably had about 8 to 10 inches of snow. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous in the ravine. The snow is still sticking to the upper part of the branches, but there is still a number of trees that are shedding their leaves, and gorgeous pictures. But I'm going to put them up here on Facebook so that you can see some of them. I thought it was kind of cool, but I was able to get some of the pictures and the photographs. But as I was coming out of the ravine and coming around the corner, there's a taxi. This is a very small street. There's only 2 houses, but 3 driveways, because one's on the corner, a couple houses on the corner, but it's a very short street. And you do get to thinking about, this is a city, and certain people are driving around. This is going to get to another topic about our health, but I could see that this taxi driver was out and taking a piss, as you might say, a pee, some other, going back, whatever. And I mean, it doesn't bother me because I grew up in a way that if children had to go to the bathroom, we'd stop on the side of the road, or in some cases you hold it. And then being you were on hikes all day, sometimes it's not as easy that you're going to hold. It's actually probably not a very good thing to hold if you have to go to the bathroom. But what did they do ages ago or millennia ago? They're in the country. What did they do? Well, that's what they would do. So I kind of walked backwards because I didn't want him to feel really bad, in a sense of, somebody's coming, and he kind of turned, and it's like I just wanted to say to him, hey, listen, buddy, it's perfectly fine. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to go. I mean, he was going into kind of the woods area anyway, as far as that. But there's so many things that we think is new, and we're going to continue to hear new things. And this is the thing about, I think, the awakening, if we want to call it that, an awakening, or being more aware of what is going on today, is that kind of thing. This is nothing new. And I'm going to start with saying I'm grateful to all the news and everything that's coming in. I'm grateful to many people like Amanda Vollmer and Russell Brand. I mean, there's, who else was it there? Oh, there's so many people. Hugo, you know, I don't want to call him a good friend, but I really like his short videos. Jake Ducey. I mean, there's, who's the ones that were being, they were being interviewed by Dawn Lester and David Parker. So she and him had written a book. What was the book called? Yeah, I wrote so many notes here. But the book is a really good book, and it is about what makes you ill. That's what it is, what makes you ill. But you know, then there's Bruce Lipton. And the interesting thing about watching these people and coming in and tuning into what they say is they are evolving and understanding better and learning. So it's really interesting to kind of watch Bruce Lipton today than having watched him years ago, and how he talks about consciousness. And I want to bring a little bit into that as well. But let's start somewhere. That's the something new. That a lot of things are old, but when you hear it for the first time, it is new, and that's okay. The digesting of new information is where we would go with it. Sometimes it sounds unbelievable. Now, it sounds unbelievable, and it did, and I did speak to things where I used to say to people, there is no virus. I mean, there is nothing that exists that way. It's all made up. And the good thing about watching the Amanda Vollmer interview was I want to get the book, because there was a lot of research that they had did. Some of this information I come in it at a different angle. Some of it research, some of it experience. And the idea is, we have been told many things in our life that may not be what it's made out to be, because of the idea that PubMeds, medical system, all of these are designed to experiment, keep people sick, but it makes business for the big P. And this is where, and who makes the big P, what corporation or corporations those are, they're making money for, I'm just going to call them the they, and because they're invested. And that's why certain things about systems is they're all connected. You know, they're all connected. So there's nature and how that's all connected. And then there's over in which way we've been, how can I say, go in a direction of that's all connected. But they really don't connect with each other. But there are little tentacles and kind of connections there. But the idea is to understand they really don't know the body. And the logic behind that is there's no cure for cancer. There's no cure for diabetes. There's no cure for the cold even, right? So just use that kind of logic. And then understand that various pieces come in. If they say something means something, that doesn't mean it's true. It just means, well, that's what they're saying through their theory, or however they do. And at times there's all these pieces that have been labeled and made up, and correlations of that been said that is, but it's not. And sometimes I'll see these elaborate diagrams, because that's about as much as they're going to do, is elaborate diagrams. They're not real photos. And these elaborate diagrams are, there's no way that is real. I mean, in the interview that Amanda was doing, I mean, they say it quite nicely. I mean, it's just a bunch of material. And when it comes to viruses, what did they say? I'm just going to check what I have written here as far as it's, yes. So originally, the virus or a virus was the, let's just call it they called it PUS. It was not a particle. It was not something that definitive that is isolated and that they know and can diagram it and put no. It was just PUS, right? Which would be a whole host of things at the end of the day. Now, the other logic is to understand that the body is constantly working towards being the miracle and healthy. But in that process, we are turning over new cells. We are breaking down old cells, or we have waste byproduct, let's say from your own furnace or your metabolism. And these byproducts are, what are they doing? They're floating around your system. And in a sense, if you are not treating your body as a temple with all, with all the various healthy lifestyles, of course, you can't do everything that deems healthy lifestyle. You'd be busy in a day and wouldn't get any sleep. But just say you choose your healthy lifestyle, and the healthy lifestyle, including, the mental and how you feel and positive and sleeping habits, relaxing, resting, enjoying, play, that kind of balance. So good food, right? Good food as well. And then you have the movement, some active, being moving, using your muscle, using your body, right? Using your body. So all of that healthy lifestyle determines how strong the system is. And that is quite often made up as parts, yes. And so we get it from our food, yes. And we don't use it up as much. So if we're traumatized, we use up our nutrients. I mean, we go into a fight or flight, and this is stress, and this makes the body acidic. And, there's different things that come out. You don't digest properly, which in itself is is an issue. So remember that the body needs to regenerate. Regenerate's a good word. Recycle, or recycle is building up of things, which we can recycle proteins apparently, but we just don't know what is true anymore. But also eliminating. So these very processes take energy. And that is critical part of this whole thing. Everything is energy. And Bruce Lipton, everything is energy. Consciousness, energy. Energy synonymous with information. So as the body is storing up your energy from anything, from the food, from your vibration, your higher frequency, how you're thinking, your vibration, this is a positive thing. It takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile, those kind of things. So it's a lighter feeling, and that's a positive thing on your energy. And if we're all energy, then our frequencies, and the cell membrane is a storage of energy. Little side story there, because this is a really good book, and I'm going to just show you this book. It's called Spiritual Chemistry, about Malcolm K. Smith. And in here it talks about it. It almost brings Bruce Lipton's information to another level. And the idea is, one of the stories I was going to say about energy is that there are people in there that were doing good work. And let's just say, let's call them saints for a better word. They actually don't decompose at the same level as we're accustomed to, I guess, for the average body. They actually would stay due to the buildup of positive energy that's called good vibrations, frequencies, in all of their cells. They didn't decompose, or don't decompose, or didn't, this is the story past, compose the same rate as many other things. And we've heard many stories about many things, so that's kind of interesting there. But Bruce Lipton, it was Russell Brand that was doing an interview with him, and the whole thing about what you set up, this is no different than as you grow up. This is the thing around nervous system development, right? Neurodevelopment. I'm just going to put out this information, happens till you're the age 24. let's just say. So the things that you do while you're doing your development or while you're doing your growing, physical growing, bone growing, everything, it matters. And there was studies and research that I looked into, and this was about the depression. And parents who have had plenty of food would actually give birth in a way that is giving that health, that vibrancy, that energy to the baby. But when there were poverty that came across, so same parents, what was passed on to the child wasn't quite the same. And so there would be, the development was different. And of course, during the child or baby, young child, that would also come into play too. So we just got to think about, in our development, what is anti-aging? Anti-aging is just giving your body the energy it needs to eliminate, to heal, to regenerate. That's if we want to just keep things simple, that's really that is. But there's much in the way that comes, that's happening around us, that is part of our thinking, where our thoughts go, and all of that comes to uniquely who we are. Back to the Amanda interview, very interesting things were spoken to, and this makes so much sense. That, can you imagine you're a government and you screw up royally, you screw up, you have an error, you miscalculate, you thought you were doing something good, maybe overly trying to be safe and things like that, and in the screwing up, something negative happens, something bad happens. And I'm going to reference here the mad cow's disease. It's not a disease at all. It was a poisoning of the animals and a poisoning of the people at the same time, because what they decided to do was give 4 times the dose in the washing of the cows. Now I don't know all the details, with organophosphates, very poisonous. So can you imagine the Black Plague or Black Death being the same but different scenario, where there is in the atmosphere, maybe due to, they're not quite sure, volcanic activity, what it is, I wrote it down, volcanic activity, there may have been something else, where did I put it? Yes, like a comet apparently. Now, one of the things I was familiar with, not that I know the Black Death is the same as the Black Plague, top of the head, but there was a lot of burning of coal. And when you burn coal, again, think of black lungs. That was kind of the scenario. Now, they blamed it on the rats, and maybe that's a pure, now again, living in villages and towns and coming out, that's where it was. You get out to the country, it was different, but there were still things, and this was apparently just targeted for Europe, I think, from what I hear. But there's a lot of stuff to kind of research, but it's interesting how they were able to, a particular doctor out of Ireland was able to take through the rings of trees, let's say a tree is 500 years old, so through the rings of trees, able to determine what is embedded, the chemicals that are embedded in that particular age or year or decade, and determine in that year what was kind of there. And that's where the volcanic material. So if you have things covering, the sun can't get through, and again, if you have all these people cramming into cities, as was kind of the thing to do, and then you did have waste product being thrown out the window, they didn't have proper sanitation, you had the coal going up into the atmosphere. If it would be winter, you'd be cold, chilly, you'd be constantly having that coal burning. So there's probably a number of factors, and I think that's one of the things to remember, is that quite often we want to blame one thing. But it may very well be a whole host of things, and that's no different than looking at lifestyle, healthy lifestyle, as a host of a number of things, right? So that's important there. And there was something I was going to tie into into that. So we've got energy, we've got you've got health here, we've got understanding. A virus is potentially a made-up thing to be able to tell stories. Now, I wanted to get in, I'm going to jump a little bit. Let's just, yes, this is what I wanted to go with. You know, from the rat, let's talk about animals or creatures or living things that on our planet other than man. And that is, I wanted to give you this message and this thinking because it's going to tie in poverty. Think about the wild animals. I remember having conversations with people, and I remember learning this years and years and years ago, and that is, we have wild animals on this planet, meaning they don't live in the commercial farming aspect or the farms that we know it. They're wild. They are eating what they want to eat, sleeping, doing what nature has them to do to survive and to thrive and to produce babies and all those things. Here in the city of Toronto, we have coyotes. I think I saw one a few weeks ago, but the idea is we have coyotes here. And the city has said, when it comes to nature, we have the ravines and stuff like that, it's going to happen. And we have tons of rabbits here too. And we have hawks in my neighborhood, and squirrels their food, and birds are their food. But here is the thing. We do not want to feed the wild animals. Why is that? I'm going to tie this into poverty, and hopefully we have a conversation on this, or you're hearing this, it's going to make sense to you. People, you don't want to feed the wild animals, because if you do feed the wild animals, they will have more babies than they would normally have. So you can see the issue in a city where if you put out food, and if people do that, poor animals, whatever you want to, whatever your thinking is, you're kind, I get it, kind, compassion, all of that stuff. But if you overfeed the animals, if they get enough food when there isn't enough food, as in maybe, the rabbit population is down because they've been feasting on them for a couple of years, just gonna make stuff up, then they wouldn't have that many pups. So animals in themselves are going to have the offspring based on if it's a healthy environment, diet, those kind of things. So when you feed animals, you inflate the ability to have more offspring. End of story. Now you might say, well, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But I would suggest it isn't as cool as you think. And they also can get familiar with human and man and where to get their food. And if for some reason you just move away and the next person doesn't feed them, it can be very confusing for them that way. And also other people who may not be as comfortable around animals may be approached by a wild animal thinking, the wild animal thinking this is man and man's been feeding me, and they don't know the difference. Some do. They're smart creatures at the end of the day. But the idea is you're kind of creating that environment where they'll get too close to man. I'm not saying that man and animal, they can't get close. Of course they can. But we appreciate and respect that they can find their own animals, food. They can find their own food, the animals. And I think that is, thanks Ken, frozen. So maybe this program here that I'm using, OBS Studio, isn't working as well. So we'll see how it goes. I will play it back and see if there's anything that happens that way. Working on it. The other thing I wanted to talk about was God. Okay? I haven't finished this book, but it's by Richard Dawkins, and I know he's popular with a number of people. And again, like the Sapiens book or the Homo Deus by Yuval Harari, this book too here, there's somewhat of a confusing thing. I have to read all of it to better understand it. I'm only 40 pages in, but the idea is, and this is what I want to pass, God has different definitions based on different things. And I'm not saying that we want to kind of move towards a one definition thing. Not at all. Some of the things I can gather through here is where we have created and put things in the way they place, the meaning to things. And if I can just kind of put into place, I'll finish reading this book and come on and say whatever. But the idea is we should look at, if we're going to look at things, we got to look at it in the perspective of the various degrees of understanding. And one of the things is religion doesn't mean you're not, or you're more connected to God or not connected to God. Religion. Okay, so religion is a construct, a created institution, if you want to think of it that way, that, which you can see is divisive in itself amongst all the various kinds of religion, as if we want to lump them underneath, beliefs and how they choose to live, right? Because they do different things based on what they believe is God. And so what is God? I mean, what is God is a good question. It's a good question. But I'll suggest that God isn't necessarily tied to religion or is housed in a church. And that's definitely, maybe in the name of the book is the God delusion. I'm not sure if it's the religion delusion, perhaps, but I'll finish reading it. But that is something I think I would welcome more conversation with and amongst the people around the world, with each other. I have a friend who I think, she's more in the same boat I am as far as seeing life. But she's meeting with, I believe, a Christian, I believe a Catholic, and then the Quran with somebody who's, culturally, Jewish, that kind of thing. So they're meeting, I think, on a weekly basis and having discussions on the various things. So she's finding it interesting. But I think it would be good for us to kind of welcome, to understand more about how cultures, whenever the moment arises, are thinking about God and all of that. Because there's no sense putting people down. I mean, at the end of the day, we're still not sure, like Sapiens, talking, brief history of mankind, which is a bunch of whatever, high stories. Same thing can be in here. At any given time, if this is a reflection of our past and we have rose above the ideas and programming that we've had, then a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. Now, I'm generalizing and I'm putting everybody in the same bucket, but if you get my drift that way. So the thing I wanted to go into is there's a particular doctor, and I'm not sure if I'm going to say her name correctly, Dr. Roshagni Killian, and so Dr. Killian, and she was talking about Deemers. So this is, I'm going to put the link below, and the idea is this is a test that you do to see kind of inflammation, and she certainly has a good grip on this test being used. She's an emergency doctor, and the way it's coming about now with all of the inflammation since the injections have started is off the chart. So it's not even that it's continued or a little bit more, it's off the chart is a little exaggerating, but you know what I mean. It's, it's just tenfold, whatever, more than usual. And sometimes the symptoms or further testing, like an MRI, is done, but she doesn't see the same thing that comes with the MRI. She's not seeing anything in some cases, so what they're thinking is like micro clots, micro inflammation, but through systemic inflammation. But I'm going to put the video so you can see that video that way. And yes, I said I was going to do the correlation between the wild animals and feeding the wild animals and poverty today. This is an understanding we can have. The idea of creating problems, we've talked about this before, create the problem, come up with the solution, everybody begs for the solution, and there you go. But the problem of poverty or feeding or famine has been a created thing. It's been a created thing. And what's happening is when you feed, I mean, it's only energy, it's carbs, but it's very, when I first heard that that's what they were feeding, people who are in famine is a lot of these grains, and I don't even know, probably not organic grains. That just didn't seem right. So whatever, decade plus ago, it just didn't seem right that they're feeding them this mush. They're feeding them this, what? Fortified and sure, whatever, garbage. And what dawned on me with the correlation between feeding them and them having all the energy, and then being able to, she's from Owen Sound Hospital, cool. D-dimmer shows collections of spike proteins in arteries. Yeah. So many doctors are going to come to the conclusion here of these things, which is great. Some of these tests is awesome that people are speaking about it. But the poverty thing about eating was, if you feed these people this cheap energy, there's energy still there, they're going to have more babies. Now, would you want people in poverty and famine having more babies? No, you wouldn't want that. So the idea is to imagine these people and to help them. They should be having their own gardens. There is no reason why. If U.S. farmers can pull together and change their whole farm to be wonderfully profitable, nutritious, and all that, there's no reason why there are people that have famine today. But I will tell you, if I'm giving money, which I have in the past, but if I'm giving any more money to any organization at all, I am going to know how they're using it. And I am not going to spend one dime if what they're feeding them is like something like Ensure. Like, they'll know that is garbage. It's not the people that are probably in doing all of this. It's how it was set up and how they have been programmed to believe this is what's best, when it's not what's best. You don't want them having babies. People who are in famine should not be healthy enough to actually have babies, but they are. So what is that about? Anyway, something to think about. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and probably lastly, is Health Canada. Let me see if it's right here. Life after vaccination. Oh man, let me just unpack this for you. It's actually not that long, and I'll give you the link here. When the pandemic is over, sometimes I have a hard time saying that word, to tell you the truth. When the blah 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 is over, it is unlikely that, I guess I'll try to put it that will completely go away. Wow, that is no surprise at all, because it's the same. Anyway, let's read this. It's unlikely that the CV will completely go away. We may see ongoing outbreaks or a move to a more seasonal pattern. Like what we see with colds and flu in the fall and winter. Oh, so it really is just a cold and flu that has been, making things and people sick, the vulnerable, the usual. There will likely be ongoing outbreaks of CV in parts of the world where vaccination, now they're making people think that it's the unvaccinated is not available. BS. Even in Canada, some individuals may choose or not be able to be vaccinated. Yeah, because they almost died with the first one, or people just like us don't want to take it, and not develop an effective response to the vaccine. Yeah, well, I think that kind of leads you to the old, we had the 1, 2, and everybody's starting to get the 3 and the 4. But good preventative practices should always be part of our normal routine now and after the blah, 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 such as staying home if you feel ill. All right, common sense, good hand hygiene, and covering your cough or sneezes. Yeah, good hand hygiene. If you're touching a bunch of meat, you want to make sure you wash your hands for sure. And like I said, washing hands is mostly for keeping your doorknobs clean, your light switches clean at the end of the day. That's good. So the next part, wearing a well-fitted mask and not getting close to other people have proven to be effective during the blah, blah, blah. How is that so? When we're talking about the 5th whatever lockdown, that's impossible. That doesn't work. These practices could become part of your regular routine for the winter cold flu season. Some people may choose to continue to use masks regardless of the season. It's important that we consider this to be a normal personal choice in our post-pandemic world. Yeah. Okay, that's when the pandemic is over, and likely people, the idea is you still see it around the world. Things are still shutting down. Things are still, even in Canada. I mean, the idea is, this is talking about in the future. Still today, there's segregation. If you don't have your DD, then you can't do this or that. So we still have that. We should be talking about it more than ever I was talking to a lady who works just down the street, and she doesn't want to get this, but she feels that if this carries on any longer and she wants to go see, travel, something like that she's going to have to get it, but she doesn't want to get it. So I told her, hang on, and the one key thing that we can do in this planet of ours is actually to just no, right? That is really the thing to do. And ask your doctors if they are familiar with this D-dimmer, this testing for inflammation, and see what actually can come up. So I'm not sure if this OBS thing studio is working. It's supposed to be streaming and whatever it is. So here we go. Figure it out. It's called technology, which I'd rather just throw it in the garbage sometimes, and I try to avoid being on there. Anyway, the idea is there is many things that are here to distract us and to lead us away from just simplifying our life. I can't say that enough. To think about what that means for you, because everybody's going to be different, but simplification is going to make the world go around. Not the busy are stuck with the phone in our face. This is why I'm not active on, what are those apps? WhatsApp, Telegram, Instagram, and now they have this meeting place one. I won't be that active on them because I just will not be looking at a tiny screen. I just won't be doing that. But anyway, that's the good thing about choices. And everybody gets to choose. So let me choose some jokes, some riddles, and get into that, and then I'll check to see how this video turned out after the play here. So this is riddle. So we have the short question and answer. Why is Sunday the strongest day? Why is Sunday the strongest day? Because all the others are weekdays. They should put Saturday in that too, but anyway. Question: what is a forum? 2 plus 2 Forum, 2 plus 2 And remember, this is it's 50 years old. Time. But I think I've heard some of these still to this day, but definitely not as many as in here. There's a lot. What 2 animals go with you everywhere? What 2 animals go with you everywhere? Your calves. I didn't say these are going to be, they're going to be head shakers. What's a cocoon? A wound up caterpillar. What has many leaves but no stem? What has many leaves and no stem? A book. What does roast beef cost? When does roast beef cost the most? When does roast beef cost the most? When it is the rarest. Okay, there we're going to go. You know what? I think there was one other thing I wanted to bring up. So let me go in here. Yes. The new name of the variant, let's call it, which doesn't exist right? Doesn't exist because it's just a whole goopy of things, but it's called Omnicron, right? And so there's two things I saw. One, I saw, and I know this is going around. One was a movie, an old movie, where it talks about this particular thing, alien, coming and invading people's bodies so they can see what's going on and learn. And then the other one is a video game with David Bowie. I think it was 1999 it came out, Nomad Soul. So Omnicron they call it. So isn't that interesting, the names that we have there? The other thing that I thought was interesting is the World Economic Forum has been canceled. Now, not the World Economic Forum itself, but a particular conference that they were going to hold. So shout out to Hugo for, sometimes he puts together 4 different videos in one day. I think that is particularly, that's it. You know, much of the stuff you are probably getting wind of, and that's why I just don't want to repeat everything. And oh my God, we'd be here all day if I did that. So there might be some other things I wanted to cover. I'm just going through all my lovely notes here, but definitely correlation, just kind of leave you with that, is correlation between our thoughts and what comes about. So one thing I'm going to leave you with is breath is great to slow down your thoughts. If you take deep breath in and you pause and you focus on your breathing, focus on your heart rate, it slows your thoughts down, which in this case, depending on what you're thinking all about, or maybe just watch the news, is to help clear the mind, right? Because thoughts are things too. And if you're thinking about the things that you don't want, which you don't want to do, or you want to get away from doing it, or focus on the things that you do want. This is the thing, to actually take note of the things you do want. Now, we're not talking about world health, everybody healthy. That could be part of it, but it could be anything that you desire, right? Anything that you desire. I mean, this is the wonderful thing around words, and that's where Jake Ducey mentions, see this here, desire of the Father. Inspire is in spirit, right? So I've been talking about words, and words are things too. So when we think about speaking, obviously the thought comes before we speak, or maybe some people say, think before you speak, but the idea is to imagine what you want, And again, it's exercises to do. That way we're not thinking about what it is that you don't want. So using breath to get in a quiet space in the mind and thinking, and then coming in with the 1, 2, 3 things that you may have that you desire, that's inspirational to you, that you desire, and that's, have them already, have them. That's why I think some people have, write down gratitude journal. I mean, they're making the effort to write things down, but just think about what is it that you do desire. And that is the things that you can go into putting in your mind as opposed to that. So that gets me to, I'm wrapping up the Awakening Book Club for the 9 books in December. But I'm going to do it again in January. I'll post the links here and there. And I'll probably start in February because I want to do a special event for January for the group. There's an additional book, so we're going to read that. And yeah, and we might have a guest speaker, which is the translator, because this is books from series from Russia, written first in Russia, about a person who lives, and family has, and others have lived in the Siberian taiga, as they call it, and lived pristinely. And so very, very simply, and with nature and telepathic and all these things that you can tune into. So through reading these books, there's a number of things that come into play. And one of the things that comes into play is understanding that democracy was actually the creation of money and the creation of people still being slaves, but earning money to be slaves. So they still had to be a slave in order to earn money. But democracy wasn't created for you to be free. It was created for you to buy into what democracy was created to be, which is, again, debt slavery. And then you'd want more stuff, and then you'd have to work more, and da-da-da. So work, and you'll work harder if you want more for the things you want, maybe not need, right? And not do your own thing. Oh, we'll just buy it here to eat all the convenient stuff. So, step forward over thousands of years, and here we are right today. Anyway, I'm going to leave you on that. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Ken, for your comment. I'm going to see how things actually came out with this video. I'd rather do it on Facebook, so I'm just going to see how this program streaming is working and worked. But anyway, so take care, everyone. Enjoy your week. If something crazy comes on, then I will come. Happens, I'll come on. Otherwise, take the time for you. Take the time for self-care. Take the time to feed yourself with good things, whether that's thoughts, positive, whatever, fun, play, whatever that is. And yeah, there you go. So take care. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your week. And I'm going to post down below one last little thing. Is about if you're interested in Ravine and nature and some I don't even know what the presentation is about. It's a 30-minute presentation. I'm going to see it for the first time myself, but it is around Toronto. We have a number of ravines, and this is a nature's, this person is very, very qualified. Her name is Ellen. And so yes, that's tomorrow night. So I'm going to put the links down below this video, and